Okay, please can you all see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you're on Windows and you want to configure the virtual env thing, okay, so you go to CMD, your command prompt. You launch your command prompt like that. Is that okay? So if you don't know how to use command prompt, I would advise you find some time to look at it. Okay, maybe we consider doing some tutorials on shell scripting and CMD. Okay, all right. But right now, I'm assuming that at least you know how to do a couple of stuff. Now, the moment you launch command prompt without any elevated privileges, what happens is that it gets into it by default logs to your home page or your home directory. So if I do dir on Windows, which is equivalent to ls on Mac, dir means show me the content of this directory. Okay, so you can see that I have my desktop here. I have download document downloads and other folders. So meaning from here I can go to any of these folders. So let's say we are going to work on our desktop. So I can do cd, which means change directory, okay, into my desktop or onto my desktop. You can always use CLS to erase, okay, CLS to erase. So on my desktop, currently I have these folders on it. So CLS again, I want to create a folder called CFA webinar. So the command to do that is mkdir, make directory. This is also the same on the Linux environment, okay? So mkdir, excuse me. All right, so mkdir, then the name of the folder. So I'm going to call it CFA webinar. You can name it anything that you want, okay? Right, so if I do dir again, you realize that there is a folder over here, okay, which has been created by the command I issued. All right, so now to enter the folder, you do cd CFA webinar, you enter it like that. Now, at the moment, if I do dir, you won't see anything, but then take note of this. This dots here and these double dots, they are references to certain things. Now, the first dot represents this folder. So in this case, this CFA webinar folder. So anytime you want to do something within this folder, one way you can do it is just to say /, then the name of wherever you want to go, whatever file you want to execute, okay? Then the /, represents the parent folder. So if I do something like cd .. it means it should take me to my desktop. Now, if I get to the desktop and do cd .. it means it should take me to the live spring directory. Okay, so the /, represents the parent directory. Okay, so now, if you have installed Python 3, then you already have the venv bundled with it. Okay, so you don't have to install it as a third-party tool. Now, the way you activate it is by typing Python. By the way, some apps have installed Python 2.7. Okay, so before you do this, you can do Python Python -- version, okay, to make sure that you are actually using Python 3. So you can see that I'm using Python 3.8. So the venv already comes with it, okay? All right, so the next thing to do here is to do Python -m, which means you are going to invoke a module. Then the module that we want to invoke is venv, that is the virtual env. Is that okay? And we actually using it to create an environment. Now, usually, like Pi said, they call it env, but you can also call it any name. So you can call it TFA, TECHFoundation. Okay, so I'm going to make it TFA for TECHFoundation Africa. So if I hit enter, this will take time and it's going to copy all my global Python tools and all blah 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 stuff and create a virtual environment for me, so that whatever you do inside this folder or inside this environment, it's not going to affect your global one. So any dependencies like the Flask, Django, pip, pillow. If you install any Python dependencies here, it will only be within this container. It's not going to affect your global Python. Okay, so it will take some minutes to, or a couple of seconds, depending on your machine. So let's wait for it to.
I wonder what you are doing on your machine that is making it take such a long time.
I'm rendering some 3D model, and also I'm doing electronics. Okay, so you can see now if I do dir, if you're on Linux, that is ls. So you can see that now we have CFA. Is that okay? Now, for the Windows environment, you don't do source. Okay, you don't do source. So this is how you have to run the script directly. So where can we find the script? If I do cd cfa and do dir, you see a folder called scripts. Okay, now if you enter into that script folder, if you enter into the script folder and do dir, you see activate.bat and all those blah blah stuff. Okay, so it is the activate file that we actually want to run. Is that okay? We want to run it. Now, unlike on Mac or Linux that you have to say source, for the Windows environment, you have to run it directly. So I can just do /activate over here to get sorry, what is this saying? Oh, sorry. So I can just do activate over here. Now you can see that my virtual environment has been activated, and I have CFA over here. So whatever name you used to represent your virtual environment, that's what is going to have here. Okay. Now to quit from the virtual environment, you just say deactivate. Now, one thing that I want you to take note is that usually when you enter the virtual environment, cd -- to go back, cd -- to go back, please do not put your source code inside the virtual environment. Don't put your source code in the virtual environment folder. Is that okay? You are not supposed to put it there. Okay, so make sure you are just working in the parent folder in which the virtual environment finds itself. So if I want to activate the virtual environment from the parent folder without going inside the virtual environment folder, then the script, then I can now do that. Hey, starting from this folder, which is /, okay, or since you are on Windows, /, go to the TFA folder. When you get into the TFA folder, go inside the script folder. When you get inside the script folder, I want you to bring out the file called activate. Then you hit enter. That's all. Your virtual environment will be activated. The same way, if you want to deactivate it, for the deactivation, it is simple. It is straightforward. You just say deactivate. So far as the virtual environment is active, the deactivate command will work. You don't have to specify any path. Please, is it okay? Please, is it okay with the Windows users?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
I have one more problem.
Okay.
When I try to do it the way you did it just now with the /TFA and all that, Windows didn't allow me to do so. So
what did
I had to come.
What did it say?
It gave me an error that I'm not supposed to run some commands or some files like that in, I don't know. So I had to use call and then the path.
Which Windows are you using anyway?
Windows 10.
Seriously?
Yes.
Maybe it's the Russian version.
No.
It's the Russian version. Okay, but this should work in basically every Windows.
Yes, but so just in case it doesn't work for some people, just before you put in the
so let me so you do what? Call
and then the path name, the full path, the path name.
Cool. So call. Are you sure you didn't specify /? Did you use / or /? Try it again and use /. You're on Windows.
Okay.
So not /.
Windows is like Arabic. when everybody is reading from left to right, they do everything right to left. Everybody is using one slash. They decided for just so they'll be different.
Yeah, Enoch. So I'm waiting.
Yeah, okay, just a moment.
Okay.
I use // that's why it didn't work.
So the backslash is working.
Yeah.
Good. So that means the program that you called was resolving the slashes. Okay. So please, if you're on Windows, backslash, not // All right. Thank you very much. Pi, over to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And thank you guys for showing up again. Thank you, Eric, for helping our brothers on Windows to finally get their systems working. So at least we have verified that if you're on Windows, it takes 3 days to get your Flask working. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And then we can continue from where we left off yesterday. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, great. So let me share my screen once more. Hope you guys can see now. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to continue from where we left off yesterday. And yesterday we dealt mainly with rendering HTML using the Jinja2 template library. And we learned about how to do variable substitutions. That has to do with reading the values of some data that is coming in from the Python end of things, and then you render that in HTML. We also learned about how to do control structure. So make decisions in your template and then also loop through. So we actually left off. Let me run the app again. So I'll say Flask Run. We actually left off after we built our not so beautiful looking Corona 2020 dashboard, but it still helped us to know how to get data and then render it on the web page. The only thing about yesterday's workflow was that we really didn't use an actual database. What happened was we kept the data in memory. So today we are going to focus on how to read and write from database, get your data from the database, and then show it in the client. And what we will learn today is very important. Everything we've learned up until this point is important, but what we will learn today is particularly important because if at the end of this webinar you want to use Flask for a web application or a web API, you will still have to read and write from databases. So God willing, tomorrow we'll be treating how to create web APIs with Flask. And so we will not be rendering into HTML, but the APIs will let you build systems that machines can use to talk to each other, and softwares can also use to talk to each other. But if you are into the hardware aspect of things, that is where you also begin to reap the benefit of this webinar. So you can build your hardware module, let it send some data to some server, retrieve some data, all through a JSON API. So where's my code? Okay, let me move things around a bit. I want to reposition something. Okay. So this is where we left off. We kept some records in memory, and then we looped over from the HTML page so that we could render it on the browser. There are, I would say, 2 more things I want to teach you. And like I said, I'm going to go according to the book. So I have opened the book here, and then it's guiding me. So when I see the topic, I know what to teach you. But for the details and then the actual examples in the book, you have to practice them. I'm not going to do that. I will use different examples to explain to you that. I'm just using the headings to guide me. So what I didn't teach you yesterday was how to handle error pages. So in this, our web app right now, we only have the index page defined. What if somebody tries to go to /profile? you see that it is saying not found. The requested URL was not found on the server. If you enter the URL manually, please check your spelling and try again. This is the default not found page that Chrome is showing to us. If I open this in another browser, let me see. I don't know how long it will take for Safari to open. I never use it. Let me open it and then try to access the same URL. And then you will see that the page in Safari will also look a bit different because it is browser specific. So I'm accessing the same thing in Safari. Okay, they look quite similar. Maybe changes in fonts, but the message they are showing is the same. But I am sure those on Windows will definitely get something different because it is Internet Explorer. Okay, so if you don't want users to see the default 404 page that your browser shows when they try to access something, then Flask gives you the opportunity to override that page. I mean, it will be helpful that you design a beautiful looking website and somebody goes to a URL that doesn't exist and see some ugly thing like what we are seeing now. So what happens is Flask allows you to override what the browser shows whenever, what the server sends to the browser whenever they hit a URL that doesn't exist. Now, to do that, you need to add a view handler, just as we defined for index, but it is quite different. So look at how I'm going to do it. I'll say app.errorHandler, okay? And then I specify the particular error that I want to handle. Then you define a function. So I will define this as page not found. And over here, you are free to render any page that you have designed, okay? So the difference is, you see that for the regular view handlers, we use app.route, but this view handler, the page not found, is a special one. That is why we are using the error handler, because we want to use it to handle whenever there is an error on our server. How does the server know which error, for which error it should render this particular, it should call this particular view handler? That is why we are specifying the error code here. So 404 is an HTTP status code that tells your client that what you are looking for doesn't exist. So what we can do is we come into our template and then we create the page that we want to show to users whenever they visit a URL that doesn't exist. You don't have to call it 404, but then conventionally you call it that, so that anybody that looks at your source code knows that this is what they are going to get when they hit a page that doesn't exist. So I've inserted some boilerplate HTML code in there, and then I'm going to say, I'll show something like, dude, you are lost. Okay, so let's say for our website, we don't want people to see 404 when they hit a URL that doesn't exist. We want them to see, dude, you are lost. You define your 404.html and feel free to name it whatever you want. You come here and then I do return render template. And then you render template like we did yesterday. You specify the template name, which is 404.html. And then you bring a comma and you specify that this should handle for 404. I mean, Flask already knows that the page not found thing is what is supposed to call for 404 errors, because you decorated with this 404 status code. But you also use this to set the response header. You set a status code in the response that goes to the client. So you just add the 404 here. I'm going to save this, and I don't know if the browser has reloaded, but let's try. Okay, it hasn't reloaded. The server hasn't reloaded. So when you enable hot reloading, it only reloads when you change your Python file, not HTML. And I think the way I ran it too, I didn't enable hot reload. So I'm going to do export Flask debug is equal to 1. So you saw that the last time I showed you two ways of running your Flask app. You can export Flask app, specify the name of the file so that you can do Flask Run, or you can call it programmatically like we have in our code here. But to let this one execute, you need to do Python and then the app.py. Otherwise, you use flask.run. And so when I use flask.run, it didn't call this code at all. That is why hot reload wasn't working for me. to get hot reload with flask.run, you need to export flask debug is equal to 1. So now I can do Flask Run. And then now it has hot reload enabled. So I'm going back and then I'll hit something that doesn't exist. What? Page not found takes one positional argument. Oh, sorry. So because that is an error, Flask also expects you to define the page handler such that it takes an error as a parameter. And if you want to do anything with the error that comes, you can get a message, you can get details of the error, but you just have to put it there. So for those of you who remember how to deal with dynamic paths in URLs, the last time we did that /name thing, this is what we did. So now it is showing you, dude, you are lost. So anytime I go to any page that doesn't exist, I can say, how are you? It doesn't exist, so it will show you the dude, you are lost, okay? So this is one way. Another error that you definitely want to handle is 500. So the HTTP status code 500 means something terrible happened on your server. And in Flask, that is a time when users get a chance to get a debugger and all those things in their browser. So it's good to handle when something terrible happens on your server. So to do that, you just do app.errorhandler, and then you specify that you're handling for error 500. Then you can say def server error or any name. Just give it any name that you want. And that also takes error, I guess. And then we return render template 500.html. And then we specify the status code that we want to set. Don't forget that we haven't defined our 500.html. So I'm going to do that here. And then I'm going to place some dummy HTML code in there. And then I'll say something terrible happened on the server. Or oops, try again. So you do this, and whenever something critical, whenever your server fails, it could be that is a problem in your code, or you're trying to communicate with the database doesn't exist. Anything that should definitely stop users from using your system is going to hit the 500 error handler, and whatever template you render there is what is going to be shown. So it's like your last resort. So you show that to users so that you know that they know something is going on. Sometimes what people use this thing for is when they are doing server maintenance. So they can turn off every route and then just leave the 500 running. So when people hit, you'll tell them that we have intentionally taken down our site for maintenance, which most Ghanaian companies do a lot, even though it doesn't make sense. So it's not a good thing that you have to do, but you definitely need to have this 500 error handler. So because no matter how good your code is, something really shitty can happen as long as users are using your system, and then you want to handle it nicely. So that is basically how to handle errors. Now, I want to also let you know that there are a lot more about templating that we didn't treat yesterday. So there is, most importantly, template inheritance, where you can define the common structure of your site and then you can leave placeholders in there. I'm also going to leave that for you to read through so that we can move faster. I want to use the little time we have to teach you the most important things, so that once you read the book, all these things should be clear to you. Okay, so back to what we are going to do today. So yesterday we had to use some in-memory data because we didn't have a database. Today we are going to actually use a database, so all this code will have to go away. But before we do that, we need to install a Flask extension called Flask Sql Alchemy. So I'm opening this page for you to see Flask Sql Alchemy. So the way Flask works is, Flask is a micro framework, and a micro framework simply means that they give you just enough starting point for you to be able to handle HTTP requests and then provide response in return. But they don't care how you talk to databases, they don't care how you handle server authentication. Flask doesn't care. It just gives you the ability to define routes. You map URLs to view handlers. That is basically what Flask is giving you. Everything else, you are free to use any library at all that you want to use. So that is what makes Flask a micro framework. A micro framework means it is very small. If you want a full-blown framework, then you want to use Django. So, I mean, coding there is also quite similar because everything is Python, but Django is a full-blown framework. It comes with its own way of talking to the databases, managing sessions, doing authentications. It can even give you some UI, admin UIs and all that, but I don't like Django. That's my personal style because the freedom comes with a lot of restrictions. So for anybody who is interested in another Python framework, you can definitely check Django. Okay, so we have Flask Sql Alchemy, and then we also have Sql Alchemy. I'm doing all this so that you know what's going on here. So you might ask yourself, what is Sql Alchemy? Sql Alchemy is a Python toolkit and object relational mapper that gives application developers the full power and flexibility of SQL. So what happens with Sql Alchemy is it lets you use database as though the database doesn't exist, okay? It's an object relational mapper. What an object relational mapper, or ORM, whenever you hear ORM, it means object relational mapper. What ORM do is that ORMs hide the details of talking to database from you. The truth is, if you are writing to databases from Python or any language, and you are not using an ORM, you will have to be responsible for opening connection to the database, defining your SQL statement, executing it, to bring it to come back with result set. You have to loop over the result set, get each column, and then put your data in a form that is useful. So ORMs take away all this burden from you, and they make it such that you just define a Python class, and the class knows, an instance of the class will know how to save itself into a database for you. You just define where the database is, you create the class, and once you create an object of that class and you say .save, the object knows how to get itself into the database. If you want to query, there are simple codes that you can call, and then you get things out of the database without necessarily having to deal with writing SQL and all those things. So it will surprise you that today we'll be talking to databases and you will not write a single SQL because we are using Sql Alchemy as the object relational mapper. Now you might ask yourself, so if there is Sql Alchemy, why Flask Sql Alchemy? Like I told you, Flask is a micro framework, so it doesn't care about how you write to databases, whatever you do. What Flask cares about is gives you the opportunity to get requests and then handle responses. So what we've treated for the past 2 days is the point where Flask really shines. Now, Flask has extensions. Extensions are things that people create. They are open source solutions that people have created to bring in some of these cool things in other libraries into Flask. So something like Flask Sql Alchemy makes it simple for you to use Sql Alchemy in Flask. If you know Sql Alchemy already, you know that when you come to Flask Sql Alchemy, not much have changed, just that how you link it to Flask. But you don't need to know Sql Alchemy to use Flask Sql Alchemy. Even though Flask Sql Alchemy makes it simpler for you to use Sql Alchemy in Flask, but you don't need to know Sql Alchemy before you learn Flask Sql Alchemy. Whatever you know there still transfers if you are doing pure Sql Alchemy. So that is what I want you to know. Apart from this Sql Alchemy, we have Flask Login that also handles login. We have Flask Social. If you want to do login with Facebook, login with Google, login with Twitter, login with GitHub, they have all those things taken care of for you. So because it's an extension, it doesn't come pre-installed with Flask, so we need to install it. Now, with my virtual environment already activated, why is this guy not going away? How do I hide this guy? I want to hide the thing that is showing there. Okay, I'll just drop down. Yeah, so with my virtual environment activated, I will just do pip3 install Flask. I think Flask Sql Alchemy. So pip downloads Flask Sql Alchemy into my virtual environment. So now when it's done, it means I will have Flask Sql Alchemy ready for use in my project. So I'm waiting for it to finish installing. Okay, great. So now we have Flask Sql Alchemy installed. Let me show you two more things before we start talking about the databases. So yesterday, you can see that our dashboard has only one page. Whoa. Okay, I'm not running the server. So I'm going to do Flask Run. And then when I come here, you see that our dashboard has only one page. What if we have multiple pages and we want to link them? So I'm going to add another page by creating another template in the templates. I'm going to call that maybe contact us, contact.html. And then there's going to just be a page that shows information on how people should contact us. So I'm going to change the title to contact us. And then inside it, I will say H3 call us on +233 00 0200 662 Let's say this is what we want to show for our contact us page. Then it means we need to come into our code and then give it a view handler. So we come in here and I'm going to say app.route contact, and then I'll do def contact us. So this is what handles contact us, and over there I'll just do return render template contact.html. Okay, so let's come to /contact. If I'm going too fast, stop me, because I'm assuming that by now you guys understand everything we have done, so I should be free to move fast and fast. So what is this? Syntax error, app.route contact. I placed a semicolon here when it didn't need to be there. Okay, so this is our contact us page. But as you can see now, there is no way for us to get to the contact us page when we are on the dashboard. And there's no way for us to get to the dashboard when we are on the contact us page. So we need to learn how to link our pages together, because when I'm here, I need to find a way to be able to get to the contact us page. So that brings us to how to add links to our application. And the way to do that is I'm going to add a link on this page that is going to take us to the contact us, okay? To do that, I'm going to copy how to create a menu from Bootstrap, because we have already included a Bootstrap. So Bootstrap links or something, navigation, navbar. So I will come in here. They definitely have examples that we can copy and use. This is too complex. I want a very simple navbar. Features, yeah, this should do it. So I'm going to copy this guy. And this is purely HTML using Bootstrap, so I'm not going to explain anything there. I'm not an expert, so I'll come in here, copy this, and then paste it here. So let's refresh our contact us page and see how it looks like now. So I'm going to go to contact. Okay, it is because we don't have the Bootstrap things loaded in there. And this is what I spoke of yesterday, that I spoke of today, that you need to learn how to do template inheritance on your own. Otherwise, you have to repeat yourself several times. So I'm going to paste this here, and then I'm going to copy how to include the jQuery. I'll go up here, copy these guys. I think I've copied the right thing. So let me go into my head, paste it there, save. So basically, I'm just bringing in Bootstrap onto the contact us page as well. Let's refresh. And then, as you can see, we have a nice looking link there. It is uglier because I have placed this thing above it. So I'm going to remove the contact us. Okay. So let's say this is the dashboard that we have. The template is that we have our navigation bar. Let's change what is in there. So I'm just going to use 2 links. The first one is going to go to our dashboard, and then the second one is going to go to contact us. And then I'll remove the rest because we don't need them. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, so this is what we have. Now, on the contact us page, I want us, actually, why don't I take advantage of this to show you template inheritance? Let me ask you, and I want to hear you speak. Are you understanding what I'm teaching so far?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So permit me. Okay, so we want to talk about databases, but I think template inheritance is so important. Let me teach you so that even when you are reading from the book, you understand.
Okay.
You still have time to do the databases. Okay, so template inheritance helps you to minimize the amount of front-end code that you write. You see that now I have been able to add a menu to our contact us, but that menu is not on the dashboard. You see, when I go to the dashboard, because it's 2 different HTMLs that get sent to the server every time we hit the different URLs. So what template inheritance helps us to do is it helps us to have a base layout, and then each of the pages will inherit from there. So to save ourselves the trouble, let's come in here and then let's define a base layout. I'm going to call it layout.html. So I'll call this layout.html. And then I'll copy everything inside contact us. I'll copy everything inside contact us. I'm actually going to cut it, and then I'll paste it in layout.html. Okay, so now you can see that contact us doesn't have anything. It is an empty HTML file. So if I go to contact us, nothing should show. You see that now nothing is showing because the HTML doesn't contain anything. The beautiful thing about Flask layout inheritance is that you can define the core structure of your site in one file. I'm calling that layout.html. Then you can inherit. So over here, I think what I have to do, let me cross-check once more. Oh, extends. Give me a moment. Yes, so you use the control structures that we learned of yesterday, and then you just say extends, and then you specify the name. So I'm going to let it come from layout.html. Let's refresh and see. Do you get what happened? If anybody didn't get it, let me go over again.
I think it's clear.
Okay, that's great. So, like, what happens is, you see, let me show you one more example. Like on the Bootstrap website, you can see that every link shows a different thing, but there are some things that remain. See, when I go to buttons, you see that at least the link on the top still remains there. When I go to collapse, the actual content changes, but then the link on the top remains because that thing is common. And you don't want to repeat that code in every single one of your HTMLs. Otherwise, if your boss comes and say, oh, we want to change our menu color from, or we want to change our menu layout, we want to change the way we've arranged the things. If you have 600 HTML files, then you have to change the thing in 600 files. So with template inheritance, you define it in one place and you inherit it, and you still have the ability to override it. I'm going to show you how. So now we have our contact us. The question is, how do we add something that is specific to the contact us? So Flask or Ginger helps you to create placeholders called blocks. Okay. So now what we do is, inside our body, I'll put a block there. And then to define a block, you just say block, and then I'm going to call my block maybe main. Okay, and then I'll do end block. What this means is that we are telling Jinja that this layout file will be inherited by other files. Now, when those files inherit layout files, we want them to be able to specify their own page content. Okay, so I can even call it content. Is any name, you choose any name. So what it means is that any layout files that inherit the design of layout, can be able to customize this section. So what will happen is Jinja will take what is in, let's say if contact us is inheriting from layout, whatever I define in the content block in contact us will be placed into this section. So let's come in here, and now that we have inherited, I can come and say block content, and then I will end block. So anything I put in here will go into that section in layout before it gets to the browser. So I'll say H3 call, okay, I'll just put WhatsApp. By the way, that's my WhatsApp number, so if anybody wants to WhatsApp me, feel free. So since we have done this, let's go back to our page, refresh. And then you see that now we have our nicely designed layout on top, and we only have to define what is specific to the contact us page. But because of template inheritance, it is bringing everything in layout, and it is replacing this block thing here with whatever we placed in this block content. So the name you use in the parent layout should be the same block name you use in the child layout. So basically, let me put a line there so that it is very clear to you. I mean, still our page is not the best. It's not because I'm not a designer, but we can do something to make it nice. At least I know that in Bootstrap, if you give a div the class of container, so yes, if you give a div the class of container, it should center it. Yes, so now we have our contact then moved in the center. So let's go and then do the same thing for our dashboard. So what happens is I will come to dashboard.html. What do we call dashboard? What did we call dashboard? We called it home. So I'll come to home.html, which is already opened here. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just copy the code that we used yesterday. So I'll just copy this. I'll delete everything. Then I'll say extends layout.html. And then I'll come in here and then I'll say block content. I'll come in here and then I'll end block. Then in between the block content and end block, I'll paste what we did yesterday. We will see that when we go to dashboard, it will also have the layout, the links on top, and a very nice looking table from what we did yesterday. So I'm going to come here. So you see that now we have our table, and then we still maintain the links. The reason why it is not centered is I didn't place it in the center. So I'm going to cut it once more, and then I'll do div container. I'll paste it, and now when I refresh, so you see that now we have been able to mimic what is on the Bootstrap website. So our link is on every page, which saves us a lot of time. Now the next thing we want to do is, how do we make sure that when you click on contact us, it goes to the contact page, and when you click on dashboard, it goes to the dashboard? Okay, so we want to do that in the parent layout, which is layout.html, because that is where the links are defined. So over here, the href, that is where you specify what you want to get into where you want to redirect your page when it is clicked on. So what happens is you can do, there is a function in Ginger called URL for. Okay, now the URL for takes one required parameter. Then the required parameter is the name of the view function that you want to call when they click on the link. So if I come here, the dashboard is defined on the home page and the view function is called index. So if I come here, I'll just say go to the URL for index. And notice how I am using double quotes for the href and single quote for the index name, because in Python, you can't have double quote within a double quote. You can have double quote within a single quote or single quote within a double quote. It can be the opposite. So let's try this and then let's see what happens. So I'm going to do this, refresh, and then where is this? Okay, so I did for dashboard, and because I'm already on dashboard, it won't take me anywhere to take me to the same page. Now let's go to contact us. So for contact us, I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it here. Now we want to go to the URL for, what did we call the contact us? It is called contact us. The function name, the view function name is what you produce, you provide. So I'm going to paste that here, save it. Let's refresh. And then now you see that, look at the bottom side of my browser, like where I'm moving my mouse. That is where the link is going to show. You see that it is now going to redirect me to contact. So when I click, I'm able to go to contact us. And when I click dashboard, I get back to dashboard. Contact us, dashboard. Contact us, dashboard. So what you do is you just use the URL for function, and this function works both in the Ginger template and also in your normal Python code. So you just specify the URL for, and then you specify the view function name that you want to resolve to. That is how you link things. You might ask yourself, okay, wouldn't it have worked if I had coded the URL? Since you know the URL in your browser, you could have placed it there. It will work, it will definitely work, but the problem becomes maintenance. Because if you use something and you later change it, then you have to look for everywhere in your HTML that you have done an absolute URL, and that is going to be problematic. That is why it is good to use URL for. That function knows how to, so basically in app.route, what we use route to do is we are saying when somebody goes to contact us, call this function, contact us. Now what the URL for function does is it reverses it. So it tells us that now somebody wants this function, contact us. Which URL is it linked to? Then it will take you to contact. Basically, it's just the opposite of each other. Any question? Now it's time for us to do databases. But I will pause for 2 minutes and take questions, and then we will continue from there. There's a question I'm expecting somebody to ask and nobody has asked so far.
Yeah, Pi.
Yeah.
So let's say if you have a lot of a function that you would want to access, like the contact, the dashboard, if you have a lot of them, are you going to repeat that line of codes for all of them, like the one we just did?
I mean, you can only call one function, because each link on the website links to one page. You get it?
Okay, but I mean, you called for the index, and you would also do for the contact. I mean, if you have a lot of them, are you going to call all of them?
So if we had a lot of links here, we have to call
all of them. Okay.
For each of the links. Yeah, you definitely need to do that.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other question? Okay.
Hello, Pi.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. I'm looking at your href for the URL for use index. So does it mean that the function name that you used for the homepage was was index?
Yeah, it's index. So it's the name of the function because it is doing the reverse. You see, the URL for does the reverse of what app.route do. App.route links a URL to a function. URL for links a function to a URL.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so no question, let's continue. So we want to talk about how to add databases. Let me check the order in which the book is teaching so that I can also teach like that. And by the way, chapter 4 of the book talks about forms. I don't like to write code to generate my forms, so I'm not going to treat that. But for those of you, if you are interested, you can look at it. It doesn't mean we can't use forms. We will use forms today, but I'm not going to write Python code to generate forms. It doesn't make sense for me. Okay, so let's talk about databases. I want to jump to where it has started talking about database examples. Okay, great. So we have installed Flask Sql Alchemy. That is what is going to help us to be able to talk to databases. I'm going to remove, okay, I won't remove it when we finish so that you see how things work seamlessly. So we have Flask Sql Alchemy. We need to import it and then we need to make use of it in our code. So how to import it is you come and then you say from Flask dot extension. I mean, this book is doing an old thing. From Flask Sql Alchemy import Sql Alchemy. So I realized something from the book I think I need to share with you. So in the book they are saying from flask.est.sql alchemy. It is valid, but it's an old way of doing things. The book is a bit old, so learn the best practices I'm doing here, but then everything the book is teaching you is valid. So we installed Flask Sql Alchemy. So I just, from Flask Sql Alchemy, you import Sql Alchemy. And then the next thing you do is, in this example, we are going to use Sqlite. Sqlite is a serverless database system. So I know most of you know about Oracle, you know about MySQL, you know about MS SQL. You see, Microsoft is all about troubles. We have MySQL. You need to create MS SQL. It doesn't make sense just to stand for Microsoft SQL. So we have MySQL. Let me open the site so that you know the differences. So we have MySQL. This is MySQL. It's an open source database management system. This is what most web application designers and even backenders like, is the industry standard to some extent. So this is MySQL. And then let's go to MS SQL. That is from almighty Microsoft. You see, they even steal the colors. They shamelessly steal the colors. Look at MySQL, look at MS SQL. Okay, so we have MS SQL. We also have another one called Oracle database. This is one of them. We also have Postgres SQL. So Postgres is also here. The thing is, they all provide similar functionalities, but with different security, different price, and of course, Microsoft own is not free. Postgres is free. MySQL is free. Oracle is not free. Under the hood, they all provide the possibility, or they support you saving relational databases and saving data into relational databases and then reading them back. Thankfully, with Flask Sql Alchemy, we don't need to care about how to talk to each one of these. You see, that is the beautiful thing about using an ORM. Because if you do backend, you realize that if your boss comes today and says, I think we don't want to use MySQL anymore, let's use Oracle as our database. My brothers and sister, you are going to write a lot of code. Because the way you talk to them and the way each of them have a different way of doing things. The beautiful thing is, Sql Alchemy has taken care of all this nonsense for you. So they expose an API that you call and you don't care which database you are talking to. Sql Alchemy knows how to talk to. Sqlite, I didn't even open Sqlite for you to see. So we also have Sqlite, which is also known as Sqlite. So Sqlite is a very simple serverless database backend. The difference between Sqlite and all the other ones I have shown you is that all the other ones, they are servers and then you talk to them. But Sqlite is a file-based database. It stores all the information and everything in a file. So that's what I'm going to use to show you. However, we don't use Sqlite in production often unless you are doing some trivial application. For mobile phones, all Android applications or Android systems come with Sqlite. So that's where we store data into. But for serious server things, you don't use SQLite because reading and writing from it can be slow when the load on it is a lot. But for this demonstration purpose, it's okay because I don't want trouble with my MySQL is not working. I can't connect to SQL. I can't connect to Oracle. So let's use what ships with Python. So if you're on Unix, you have SQLite already there. I don't know if Windows. I think on Windows you might have to download and install. Yeah. But every Unix machine comes by default with SQLite. So maybe that is one more bonus and one more reason for us to attract you over to finally accept the Linux campaign and vote for us in 2020, Operation Linux for everyone. Okay, so let's go and then see how we can get SQLite to work with our application. So the first thing we need to do is we need to know where we are going to store our application, our database. So I'm going to import OS. OS is just a module in Python. I will use it to resolve to the root of our folder. I'll say base directory. You can call it anything you want, but people call it base dir. So I'm going to say it's equal to os.path.absolute path. I will explain what this code does. os.path.dir name, and then I'll do __ file __. You see, what I'm trying to do here is when you go into my terminal, when I do pwd tells me that I am in users pi desktop flask webinar. SQLite needs to know where it should create the database. And we want to write our code in such a way that it doesn't matter where we put our code. If you change the folder now, if you hard code the path and you change the path of the folder, or you copy the folder and put it on another machine, your code will not work. So this helps us to resolve the base directory. So this base dir is going to contain what I get when I type pwd. It is Python's way. Now look at the code. It says os.path.dir name. The os.path.dir name is a Python function that gives you the name of the directory where a file is. And then the __ file _ is a Python magic variable that tells you the name of the current file. So actually this __ file _ file is going to give you app.py. Okay, let me do an example. I like to teach by example. So let me create an example. Okay, there's a test.py here. Let's print __ file __. Let's see what happens. Python 3 test.py. Okay, you see that I printed. Maybe let me make it more clear to you. I'll say file name, and then I'll print this. So let's come in here. See, it is saying file name test.py. So the __ file _ just tells you the name of the Python file where your code is running. So anytime you need the name of the file, just do __ file. Now let me import OS and show you what that guy is doing. So I'll come here, I will import OS. Okay, and then I'll copy this line, os.file name. Yeah, I'll copy this and then paste it in here. Let's see what we get with this. This one is supposed to get us the folder that contains this file. So let's come in here, run it. Did I print anything? os.path.dir name. Okay, let me, because I've not gotten the absolute path, sorry. So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's save. Yeah. So you see that it is telling me users pi desktop flask webinar. So basically, what this base dir variable contains is the folder that contains our app.py. It is important because Flask SQLite wants to know where to place the database file. So that is it for us. Now, when we finish, we need to tell Flask how we want it to connect to our database. To do that, you use app.config. So you are configuring your application, and this thing has to be what it is. The name that I'm using here has to be what it is. So feel free to always check the book. If you get it wrong, you waste some night. So it is Sql Alchemy database URI. And then you need to tell it where you want it to put the file. So I want to let it put it in, I'll say Sqlite : / I will explain this to you as well. Plus os.path.join base dir, and then we call it maybe data.sqlite. Okay. Don't be confused about what we are doing here. You see, we are using Sql Alchemy, and Flask Sql Alchemy is what makes it possible for us to work with Sql Alchemy in Flask. It makes it easier. Now, once we have loaded, we have installed Flask Sql Alchemy, we need to import it. After importing it, we also need to tell Flask how it can communicate with the database. And if we're using MySQL, you use a different connection string. And always feel free, just say MySQL connection string. Connection string. Every database will tell you how to generate a connection string. So for MySQL, you need to specify your server name, the database, username, and password, because it is a server-based, it has a server, but Sqlite is file-based. So what we are actually doing here is I am telling the Flask application that when it starts, I want it to connect to a database. And because it's Sqlite, the database doesn't have to exist. It will create it if it doesn't exist. And I'm telling it that it should connect to Sqlite : //. This is a standard that is required by Sqlite. There is no two ways about it. It has to be Sqlite : //. And then the path where you want Sqlite to create the database. So I am just doing os.path.join. So I'm joining, so I'm getting the base dir / data.sqlite. So when we run it, you see that Flask will create the database using Sql Alchemy. Then the next thing we want to do is app.config. I will explain this one too. Sql Alchemy commit on teardown. And then I'll say it's equal to true. Now this commit on teardown actually helps you to make sure that even if your server crashes, any data that has to go into the database that hasn't been committed yet will be committed. Because sometimes, like you go to a site, you fill a form, just because, especially Ghana government sites, you go to SNIT student loan site, you go to even banks, their site, it's so slow. You fill a form, just before you can click, they tell you, sorry, our system is down, blah, blah, blah. If you find a way to reload it, there is no guarantee that you are getting your data back, especially if they didn't save it. So this Sql Alchemy commit on teardown will make sure that the server, even if it is crashing, it will wait for all uncommitted data to go into the database before it crashes peacefully. So it's a good configuration for you to have. And then the next thing is we create a variable called db. It can be anything, but by convention we call it db because that's what helps us to talk to the database. So you see, this is what establishes the connection between the Flask application and the DB, the database. It's Sql Alchemy. So we give it our app, and then it knows how to do all this magic, connect to the database, blah, 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 everything over here. Now, at this point, we are set. Let's run our application and see if anything happens. So I'm going to do Flask Run. You see that now when we run our application, a lot more logs is showing up, which is an indication of the fact that now Sql Alchemy is in our app. It is telling us track modifications, blah, blah, blah. You see, every application keeps logs. So these are log messages from Flask Sql Alchemy. It doesn't mean your server is not running or your application is not running. You can read it for details, but everything is okay up until this point. So let's go into our folder. I'm going to kill the server. And then I'll open the folder where we are. Now, inside this folder, you can see that still we don't have any database file here. because we need to actually tell we need to tell Sql Alchemy to create the database. I mean, we can wait until we save something to it and it will create it by itself. Otherwise, we can also create it on our own. But I'll show you that later, after we learn how to define our models. So let's go to model definition. What is a model? A model is basically how you map your entities to a table. So yesterday in our Corona records, we have Kumasi, that's the city name, we have the country, we have confirmed cases, dead, and then recovered. So let's define a model. Let's define a model that is going to be able to do the same thing for us. By the way, who remembers your lessons from database, Mr. Bosu? You've all forgotten. Hello? I'm asking a question like, who remembers anything about databases? Like, you know that in databases, we have tables, we have columns, we have rows, we have relationships.
Yeah, we remember that.
Okay, great. Maybe if I ask a question and you can't talk, you can just reply to me in the chat so that I will know that you are with me.
Okay.
Okay, all right, great. So we are going to define our model. And your model, you define it as a Python class. By the way, I'm writing all the code in one file because I don't want to confuse you with importing this from here and dealing with others. But feel free to write your code in different files and import them as you want. So I'm going to call this, what do we call it? I'm going to call it Corona record. Okay, so the way to define a model is you create a class that inherits from db.model. And the model is coming from this db10. That is what is establishing a connection to our database. So we create it, and the first thing you need to do is to say __ table name __. This is how you tell Flask the name of the table into which you want to store your data. So this one, we are going to call it maybe Corona records. As simple as that. Then now we are free to go ahead and then define the fields on it. So I want to create the ID because every table needs to have an ID. So you say ID is equal to db.column, and then you do db.integer because we want it to be a number, and then I'll do primary key is equal to true. And then we want to store the city. So I'll say city is equal to db.column, and then you do db.string. We want the city name to be not longer than 20 characters. I don't know if there are any cities that have that long names. And there are other things you can do, but for now, I'll just leave it until further notice. And then we want to do country is equal to db.column, db.string. Country to, I'll limit it to 20 characters. And then what more did we have? We have confirmed cases, dead, and recovered. Now, let me just explain this simple thing before we continue. So we are defining a table. The table, we want to call it Corona records. But in the Python case, we have a class called Corona record. So that is where the ORM is happening. This is a normal Python class, apart from we inheriting from DB model and then this magic table name variable here. Everything is, of course, it is coming from Sql Alchemy, but it's a normal Python code we are writing. So I said ID is equal to db.column. Every field needs to have a type. if you were creating a table in MySQL, you need to create a column, you give it a type, and then you set some constraint on it. You can do the same thing with Sql Alchemy. Now, the advantage here is Sql Alchemy knows how to convert itself into a table in Sqlite, MySQL, all the databases. Even though if you have to manually define the tables in all these databases, your SQL will look different. But Sqlite will take care of all these things. So you definitely don't have to care about which real database engine is behind the scenes. You just write your normal Python code and it knows how to create itself into the table for you. And so I specify that ID is equal to db column db.integer. The integer means I want it to be an integer, a number, because the ID should be 1, 2, 3, and then increasing. And then I'll also say city is equal to column db string. That is a test. There are a lot of column types. So to know them, just come and then say Sql Alchemy column types. When you come here and you go to their site, you have a lot of the column types. So I think generic types, and then they will tell you about everything. If you want to store a big integer, it's integer. If you want to, they have. If you want to store a date, it's a date. If you want to store enumerations, everything is in there. If this one feels convoluted, you can even come to the Flask Sql Alchemy and look at declaring models. Okay, I think they are also using just the integer column because it's the simple ones that they want to do. But you can also use integer and all those things. I want to see if they have an example where they use that integer. Yeah, so you see that here they said db.column, db.integer, and they want it to be a primary key. So feel free to look at the data types, but in our case, we are using just strings and then integers. So because everything else is an integer. So I'll come in here and I'll say confirmed. Confirmed is equal to db.column, db.integer, and then this is not a primary key, so I'll leave it as it is. We have dead is equal to db.column, db.integer, and then recovered is equal to db.column, db.integer. I mean, you are free to add some constraints. For example, Flask Sql Alchemy has unique. If I add unique to any column, it means no two rows can have the same value for that field. For example, if we are recording for different cities, we don't want to have a row Takrade and the next row Takrade. No, we want to make sure if it is Takrade, if the figures in Takrade changes, we want to update it. We don't want to insert a new row. So we can say unique is equal to true. One other constraint you can add is you say index is equal to true. If you understand databases very well, if you index a column, it makes it simpler for you to search on it. It makes it faster because the engine will build an index table. So when you search, it will go to the index table instead of traversing the complete table. So this is one of the constraints you can add. You can, of course, add it to country as well, but I'm just doing it to show you what's going on. Okay, so now that we have our table defined, how do we actually go ahead and then insert something into it? Well, we first of all need to make sure that the table exists. And the way to make sure the table exists is we come in here. There are two ways actually. We can do what I'm going to show you, or you won't do what I'm going to show you and you write your code to save. When it is saving into the database, Flask will check if the database doesn't exist, it will create it for you. So I'll come in here and then I'll say Flask Shell. You see, we have been using Flask Run, but there is also Flask Shell. What it does is it opens a Python terminal that brings in like your DB, your Flask application, like everything is in this terminal. It is different from opening your own Python terminal. If you open your own Python terminal, then you need to do some magic to make things happen. But if you want a Python shell that has the context of your application in mind, just do Flask Shell and it will drop you a Python shell. So the way to create the DB, I think the book showed two things. So they have the create all, which you call to make sure the table and the database has been created. So let me go to the code. Our DB is called DB in the app.py. So in the terminal, we will do from app import DB. So now we've imported our DB. And then before I do that, let me show you what's in the folder. So you can see that in this folder, there's no database file. But then I come in here and then I do db.create all. When I do this and I come back, you see that now we should have data.sqlite. So this is how SQLite is going to begin to. So this data.sqlite is a 12 kilobyte file, but don't fool yourself. It is a real database. Our tables and our everything will go in there. Our records, everything we store. So you see, the beautiful thing about Flask SQLite is you can create an app like this and even copy it onto a pen drive and give it to somebody for them to run it on their computer. No internet connection to database, nothing. Let's say if some store in your neighborhood wants something to do their business with, and I mean for those guys, they don't want their system to be online. They can't afford servers and internet connection and all that. You do something like this, you copy it onto a pen drive, you go to their machine, you copy it, paste it there. SQLite will create itself right there. It's not like getting MySQL on some server and then establishing connection and dealing with all the issues that comes with it. So now our table exists. Let's go ahead and then put in some data. So I'm going to create a case. So I'm going to say C. So I'll also have to import this class. I'll have to import Corona record. So I'll say from app import Corona record. And by the way, if you know about migrations, Flask has Flask Migrate. It's also an extension that helps you to do migration on your databases, but that is a bit advanced. I wouldn't want to bother you with it now. So I can create a record. I'll say C is equal to Corona record. So I'm creating, and it will actually save into the database. I'll say is equal to Corona record. Then I'll say C1.city. Let's create it for Accra. Then I'll say C1.country is equal to Ghana. What else did you have? C1.confirmed. Let me see if that is true. Yeah, confirmed. Let's say they have 245 confirmed cases. C1.dead. Let's say 4. And then C1.recovered. Let's say it's equal to 31. At this point, our record is not in the database. It is a normal Python class. The way to save it into the database is to say db.session.add, and then we add that record. Then when we finish, it is still not in the database. So the db.session is what opens the connection to your database. So now our terminal has opened the connection to SQLite, and it has C1 in memory. But for us to instruct it to write it into the database, we say db.session.commit. So now we have one record inside our database. Let's see if it changes the size of the record is so small, it doesn't even change the size of the SQLite, but it's actually in there. So now that we have it in there, how do we retrieve it and then show it in the browser? That's what we are going to do. You will not appreciate why I'm entering the data in the terminal. So we build a form, we can enter, save it, and then it will come there. I just showed you one way. If you want to seed your database, you can always open a shell, seed it, and then feel free. So I'm going to quit this shell, and then I'm going to run the application. Okay. Now, yesterday we had to fake some data. We don't need to do that anymore. So I'm going to remove all the fake data over here. I'm going to remove it. Now we know that we have a table, we have a model called Corona record, and we've already done the db.create also. Our database exists and the table is in there, and we have even inserted one record into it. So let's go and retrieve it, and Flask makes this so easy. If I want to get all the records from Corona from the Corona records table, I just say corona record.query.all. This one will give me all the rows in the Corona records table. And see, the beautiful thing is we don't even need to change anything. We don't need to touch our HTML at all. You see, yesterday I was trying to get you to appreciate why separating backend from front end is very important. Now you see that we are doing changes to the back end, and I'm not even going to touch the front end at all. Okay, in this case, I need to touch it because yesterday we were using hard-coded tuples, but today it is a real Python class. So we need to change just what is in here. So I'll come here, and instead of saying rec0, I'll say rec.cd, and then rec.country. You see, because this records is going to be a list of instances of Corona record. And so when we are looping over, every rec here is an instance of Corona record. So all the properties we define, we can access it here. So .country, .confirmed, .dead, and then we do .recovered. Let's save this and then see if our app still runs. Nice. So you see, now we got rid of the in-memory database, and now we have an actual database. So it means when we restart this our application several times, we still have the database there, and it is showing the one I created, the Accra one. Let me demonstrate one more. I'm going back in there. I'm going to insert for Takrade. We will come, and then you see it on the page. So I'm going to kill this. And by the way, I'm doing the insertion in the terminal. I'll let us take some 5 minutes break, and when we come back, I'll show you how to build a form, enter certain things, and then save it into the DB. So I'm going to do Flask Shell again, and then I'll do from app import DB, and I'll also import Corona records. Oh fuck, Corona record. From app import DB Corona record. Okay, now I'm going to create another record. I'll say C is equal to Corona record. So I'll create an instance of it. Say C.ct is equal to, let's create for Takrade. C.country is equal to Ghana. What did we have? Confirmed. Let's say they have 18. C.dead. Let's say 0. C.recovered. Let's say they have 5. So when I finish, I just do db.session.add db.session.commit. Now I'm going to kill this terminal. I'll just do Flask Run, and let's come and refresh our page. Beautiful. Oh, I didn't spell my Takrade as well, but you can see that. So you enter something into the database, it shows up on the front end. You don't need to touch a lot of code. Now we have a database. So as long as the data is in there, we can read it back and then show it on the page. I think our database even had an ID column. So let's go ahead, update our front end to show the ID. So we come in here, we want to add a column for the ID. So I'm going to put ID here. And then the first thing we want to show is the ID. Let's refresh. Beautiful. So, any question before we take our 5 minutes break? Do you understand what I'm teaching?
Yeah, I understand. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized when you were assigning the variable C1 and C2, the Corona record, you actually didn't go by the same variable name. You use C1 and C. So assuming I should go with C1 for first entry and the same C1 for the second entry, what will happen?
As long as you have called db.session.add, db.session.commit, the next one will be inserted.
Okay.
But mind you, the C1, C2, it doesn't matter. It's a variable name, so you can choose any name. I just call the C1, C2. It's like I'm creating a Python object.
Okay, I get it, but I was actually trying to know if, assuming I should go by the same variable for each of the insertions that I make.
If you use the same variable, then it will update it. Because if you use C1 and you set and you do db.session.add, db.session.commit, and now you say c.ct is equal to Accra, it will replace what you had in the old one because it's pointing to the same variable. That is how Sql Alchemy, it tracks changes to the attributes of your values and then it will update it. If it doesn't see, then it will insert a new one.
Okay.
So, any question? Otherwise, let's take, it is 9:30. Let's come back at 9:35 to learn how to add forms and finish this thing up. Okay. Close. Okay. So now, it is not nice that we have to make the entries manually in the terminal and all that. Everybody comes to our site and they want to be able to enter things on the page and then magic should happen in the backend. Nobody cares about your Python code. So we need to add a user interface that people can use to add, they can use to create new records into our table. And that is what we are going to do. Now, to do that, I'm going to restructure the page a bit. Like I keep repeating, I'm not a front-end guy, so don't expect a nice looking site from me, but I'm going to do my best. So I'm going to introduce some small Bootstrap code in here to make our thing look a bit nicer. So div.row. So this is nothing to do with Python. That's why I'm not going to explain. I'm just looking at some CSS grid system. So if you go to Bootstrap Grid, it will show you how to lay out things on your site. So Bootstrap Grid. If you go here to give you examples of how you want to lay your page. So this is actually what I'm looking at on my second monitor. So I have a row and then I'm going to create a div that is of the class column md what. So let me see, md looking for a good length. So this md. Okay, so I'm going to do md12, and then so inside the first row, and then I place a column of 12, and then I'm going to do another second row, div.row. So div.row, then I'm going to do div.column md12. So I'm going to paste our table in the second portion of our page. Then I'll refresh this. Why is this smaller? Is it because I said MD? Eric.
Hello. Yeah.
Do you know Bootstrap well?
Yeah. Try me. What do you want to do?
I want it to be full width, like
full width. And MD would restrict. Why don't you use a container?
Yes, I have a container. Everything is inside a container. And then I have a row, and inside the row I have a column.
Mm-hmm.
I said.
So this one means that if it is on a medium screen, it should give you 12 grid. So I think
full length. Right?
If you want full length, what's the size of your screen? You should.
It's an iMac. I haven't checked but it's like a 21 inch. 21
inch. That's big. So use.
I said. Okay, this
code,
is code.
Look at the code.
Yeah, but still.
Then try the LG.
Yeah. So it was a code. Okay, nice. So what I've done is I have just created two rows on the page. The down one is what has the table, and inside the top one, I'm going to add the form. I think I've also opened how to create a form in Bootstrap, and I'm just going to copy the code, because once again, I'm not a front-end guy. I'm the wrong guy to be doing this. So I'll do div. So everything here is Bootstrap. That's why I'm not going to talk. Form group. Okay. And then I'll create a label. And then the label is going to be for city. And then I want to say city. And then I will create an input. The type is test. And then I'll give it a class of form control, and then I'll give it an ID is equal to city. Okay, let's see what we have with this, so that before we continue. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm creating, but these people, what they showed me is not what I'm getting. I want a nicer looking form, but by the way, I won't bother about it. So I'm creating a form where you can enter city, and then you can enter the numbers and everything, blah, blah, blah. And then you can finally click submit for it to happen. So I'm going to copy this. For each entry, I'm going to repeat this. So this is going to be country. And I'm going to change this to country. At this point, cast your mind back and remember the little HTML you know. So we take country, we take confirmed. So I'll say confirmed cases. And then this is also confirmed. I'll refresh so that you see what's going on. I'm just building a form. That's all I'm doing. I'm building a form that we can use to make new entry. And if you see how ugly my page is, you can see how much I struggle with front end. So we have number of deaths. So I'll call this dead. I will call this dead. And I'll explain the IDs, by the way. And then I'll have this for recovered, I guess so. Number recovered. And I'll call this recovered, and I'll call this recovered. Okay, and then finally I was trying hard to make this form look nice, but guys, I'm very, very sorry, I can't. So I'm going to add a submit button, and the way they do that is, yeah, Eric.
Yeah, so maybe one thing you can do is let me see your form again, your browser. Yeah,
I don't want to even waste time polishing it.
Okay, but then bring a form under the table. It will be better.
Okay, I'll move it around then.
Yeah.
Then I'll put a button. I'll say type, submit, and then the class is button btn default. Okay. Yeah. Why is the submit? It's supposed to be this. Oh, I haven't added anything, so I'll say save. Oh, but my button is not looking nice at all. btn default. btn default. It doesn't look nice.
Then you can use primary.
Okay. Primary. Yeah, you are the guy. So I'll say save record. And guys, seriously, I'm not going to worry about beautifying this thing any further so that we won't waste time, because I should even be able to move this guy down, the table down a bit. I'm not going to do all that because I'm that terrible. So, I mean, maybe if we don't make it dark, it will look nicer a bit. Yeah, let's just go with this. So at least, I mean, in a real design, you use a dialog where you click, it pops up, you enter, you save. But because I am doing it, this is okay for me. Okay, so now we have a form. People will fill it, click save. We want the data to go to the server. The server will save it into the database, and it should come back to our front end to refresh itself. So how do we do it? Now, this form that we have created, when the form is submitted, something on the server has to receive the data that comes with the form. Okay, so let's go and then create a view handler, because that is also a view handler. Something must come there. So we go into our app, and I'm going to create a view handler for when something comes in. So I'll say
I'll close at 8. It's now 7:45.
app.route, and then I'm going to call it save something. Then I will do def save. Okay. Now, by the way, the pass code in Python means do nothing. Whenever you are writing some code, you don't want to continue until further notice, just put pass there. Now we need to come here, and then we have to import request from Flask, because it helps us to get the details of the request that came to the server. Because when somebody fills this form and clicks on save, it will be bundled as part of the request that goes to the server. So on the back end, we need the request object to be able to retrieve what comes with the form. One more thing you need to do is, for this particular one, you say the method is equal to post. And the reason why we are saying method is equal to post is because when this form is submitted, it will go by a post request. So on the form here, on the form, we also specify method is equal to post. Okay. Let's run this and see that everything is still functioning correctly. Okay. So we got an error with the view handler. I think it is methods. And if it is methods, it has to be a list. Let's save, refresh, and fixed. So it is methods, and you specify which methods response that view function responds to. Okay, so now how do we get the form, and how do we get what the person typed in each of these fields so that we can save it into a database? What happens is, whilst creating the form, we have the ability to assign IDs to each of the inputs on the form. So you can see that for the city, I gave it the ID city, country, country, confirmed, confirmed, dead is dead, and recovered is recovered. What you need to note is the data will come to the backend as strings. So if you want it as a number, you have to convert it into a number. The way to get access to the form is through request.form, and it comes as a dictionary. Okay, it comes as a dictionary. So the first thing we need to do is to tell this form where it should send its data when it is clicked. So on the form, the action is where we do that. So the action, then we do the URL for. We say URL for, and then we specify the save. So we want the form, when you click on it, it should go, and then the server should call this save view handler. So over here, we need to retrieve all the form values and then use it. I'm scrolling to this end so that maybe I can hide this. Yeah, so that you guys can see the IDs. So I come in here, and then I'll first of all want to save the city. So I'm going to create my object. I'll say C is equal to Corona record. This is similar to what we were doing in the terminal. Then I'll come here and I'll say c.city. And by the way, you realize I don't set ID because the ID is auto increment, the database generated. I'll say c.city is equal to request.form, and then I'll get the city. You see, the form will be submitted to the request as request.form, and each of the field will have entry. So it's actually a dictionary, it's a Python dictionary. So I get the city, I'll get a country, and then I just set it to the corona record value that I've created. So c.country is equal to request.form, and then I'm going to get the country, and then I'll say c.confirmed. Now pay attention here. The confirmed has been defined to be an integer in our database, so I can't store it as a string. I need to convert it to an integer. So to do that in Python, you just say int, and then I'll say request.form confirmed. Now the keys I'm using in here, they should match exactly what has been used in the form, otherwise it won't work or the value will not be there. I'll say c.dead is equal to int request.form, and then I get the dead, and then c.recovered is equal to int request.form, and then I'll do recovered. Now at this point I can save, so I'll say db.session.add, and then I will add c, and I'll say db.session.commit. Now this is where you are saving to the database, but you see, after the user has clicked on it, we still need to redirect, because you fill the form, you click. It is the clicking of this button that will make a request to the server. When it goes to the server, we still need to render something back. Let me do something and I'll show you why. So over here, I'm not going to return anything, or that will be something more difficult to explain to you. So I'm going to return redirect anyway. So I'll do return redirect. And then if you are using the URL for in your Python code, you need to import it. So I'll import URL for. So once you finish, I want you to go back, because the dashboard is on the home page. So I want you to go back to the home page. So I'll say redirect URL for. I want you to go back to the index page. Let's see if this will work. So I refresh this. So our server is running. Let's create for Swedru. Confirmed cases, let's say 10, 0, recovered 8. Let's save and see what happens. Okay, so send bad request, key error, city. It means I'm accessing something that is not in here. So let's see. City is here. Input type. Oh, okay. So Flask expects you to use name, not ID. The ID is for Bootstrap to be able to link the label to the input. So I think we need to, yeah. So I'll do this. Say name. You get it? You know the difference between ID and then name from your HTML. I think when I'm doing Bootstrap expect this ID is what Bootstrap uses to link the label to the input. But for Flask, I used to use the name because that is how it is going to be called in the dictionary of the request. So I'll come in here, I'll say name, I'll copy this, and then I'll say name. We have fixed it, but there are chances that it will still not work, and I'll explain why. So I'm going to, maybe let's refresh, continue. Yes. Let me go back. And then let's do, I'm just entering some nonsense figures. And then I'll save. Okay, you see that now the new record has been added. And then let's go ahead and create. So I'll say Swedru Ghana 1009 because we don't want nobody to die. And then you add. So you see that like play, we've been able to build a web page with a form that you can fill. The only sad story here is I am that terrible at UI. So this thing is very ugly. But those of you who are into front end, definitely create something beautiful that everybody wants to use. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how to read and write into databases. Our time is almost up, so I'll take questions. And then God willing, tomorrow, as part of learning how to build APIs, I'll show you how to delete from database, update, and all those things. So last demo, I can come here, kill the server, go here. Let's say you have finished playing with it and you want to clear the data. Just come and delete your SQL file. Now that is deleted, I can come back. I'll do Flask Shell. I do import DB. Oh, from app import DB. Then I do db.create all to create the database and the tables again. Then I'll quit the terminal. Now I'll do Flask Run. And so you see that the database is back. Let's refresh our page. There should be no data in there. So it's empty. Now let's go ahead and create it. Berlin, we have about 98,000. About 2,000. Oh, Berlin is in Germany. About 98,000. And let's say these people have died. And let's say these people have recovered. And then we create. Let's go to Accra, Ghana, confirm 245, dead 4, recovered 32. And then you have a very simple web page that you can play with. It has the ability to read and write into databases and also render it back to you. So at this point, for those of you who understand everything, you should be able to go for some shops contracts. They want a shop management system. Or some church wants a church management system. Anything that has to do with just saving and rendering data, you people are qualified to do it now. Hallelujah. So any questions? Now I'm stopping to take questions. So any questions?
Yeah, so mine has to do with the database that is created. Are you able to export the content of the database probably into a text format or any other format?
No, it's an Sqlite database. So, but you can read from it using Sqlite. It's been a long time I played with Sqlite on the terminal. Let me see. I mean, if you learn how to use Sqlite, then you definitely will be able to read from it using Sqlite. Or there's even, let's say, I think I should have Sqlite. Yeah, Sqlite Browser. So if you install Sqlite Browser, you should be able to manually see what's in there. Let me see if this thing will open, and then I'll show you how to play with it. So this is Sqlite Browser, open database, and then I'm going to go to desktop. Is it even on my desktop? No, it's in my users. Let me see my PWD once more. PWD. Oh, it's on the desktop. So desktop. Flask webinar. Let's open this Sqlite. Yes, so it has opened it, and as you can see, it has the data. You see that Corona records. That is what we call our table. Like, where is that guy? Corona records. You see, so Sql Alchemy reads your Python code, and it actually goes into your database and it creates. Let's see, maybe we can browse table. So you see that we have Berlin, Accra, Germany, Ghana, and the figures are also in there. So any database browser that supports Sqlite, you can just drop the file into it and it will read everything in there for you. Is that okay? Yeah. So if the tool supports export, yeah, see the tool has export here. So I can click on export, and maybe I can export it to test file. So let's export it into the desktop and say Koro.txt.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And maybe I should even be able to export it into CSV as well. Yeah, they have all the data format here. So Jason, let's export it. Okay. So that one was exporting the cell. What if I want to export the whole table? This one is exporting just the cell. Oh, that is not too useful. It's exporting just the cell. I want to export the whole table, and you are giving me a cell. But by the way, let me check what's in the Koro file. So Koro. Yeah, I just exported the ID because that was what was selected. It's a terrible tool. But if your tool supports exporting the entire database, then it should be able to do that. Yes, so any question? Any question? You guys don't have questions? Is it that you didn't understand, or I have pissed you off? Where is that my lady friend? Is it Rhoda or
Hello, bye.
Charity? Yeah.
Please, I'm new to Python and this thing, but I have developed the interest in doing this thing. So how do I go about this? Because I'm new to this one, but I really want to do it.
Do you know Python already?
No, I'm new to it.
Okay, so for Python, I would say just go to YouTube. I mean, I don't like recording videos for like introductory stuff. I don't enjoy doing them. But Eric has some introduction to Python. Otherwise, go to YouTube, and I think there's this guy. Okay, let's see Python tutorials. If I find a good one, I'll just send you the link. Yeah, so there's a 4 hours course here, free on Free Code Camp. You can take it. Let me copy the link. Just tomorrow, God willing, 4 hours. Sit down.
Okay.
4 hours.
Okay.
And put it in your mind that at the end of that 4 hours, you should be comfortable. It won't make you a master Python developer, but at least you should be comfortable with Python. So I'm going to share the link, and promise me you will watch it tomorrow. And the way I will test you is tomorrow I'll write some advanced Python code, and you will explain to me what it does. So I'll share the link.
Yeah.
And once you finish, just
Okay.
download this Flask book that I'm using as a guide to teach you, and just finish it. Just finish it. It's just 145 pages. Give yourself 1 week. Just finish it, and that's it. But don't just learn, don't read. Build projects like this nasty page that I've built with you. It's okay. It helps you. This is not the nicest thing anybody will post, but at least you can save, read, and all those things. Charity begins at home. Charity.
Hi, I'm here.
Today,
I have been paying attention. I've been trying to understand it first, and then going through the video later on. I'll be doing the practice.
Okay, all right. So guys, that is it. If you don't have any further questions,
hello, bye.
Yeah.
Listen, my friend is asking for you to go over 5 minutes back because of internet issues. So I don't know if that's possible.
Go over the recap of the top stories.
Recap of, I think, from the database.
Okay. So to be able to talk to the database. Yep.
Hello. Yeah, I think you should rather get the video tomorrow and watch. Okay. Started teaching for 2 hours.
Maybe let me go over for him. Maybe.
But
yeah.
All right.
Okay. So you use Flask Sql Alchemy is an extension that helps you to talk to databases. It is database engine agnostic, so it can talk to all the databases I showed you: Sqlite, MySQL, MS SQL, Postgres, Oracle, and even some document-oriented like MongoDB, CouchDB. All the DBs, you can talk to them. So you install Flask Sql Alchemy, and then we import Flask Sql Alchemy here. Because we are using Sql Alchemy to talk to the database, we need to tell our application how it can connect to the database. And how we do that is to use the Sql Alchemy database URI, which we defined, and this base dir thing point us to the root of our folder. So we are basically telling Flask that when you are running, create a database called data.sqlite, and that is what we have. I've closed the folder, right, to create the Sqlite database file. Then you create a DB value from Sql Alchemy, passing in your app. This is all like ancillary stuff. We are getting things running. It is, yeah. Then the most important thing is to create a model. A model maps a class to a table in your database. To create a model, you inherit from db.model, and then you give it fields. And the field, you use the db.column to specify the data type that you want to exist in the database. Once you have it, that is it. To actually bring the database to life, you do Flask Shell, like I was doing, which if you watch the video, you see. And then you import the DB and you do db.create all. That is what will actually create a database and all the tables in there. After that, the rest is pure Python. You create an object of your model, you call db.session.add, db.session.commit, and it's inserted. So the only magic we did was we provided a form that you can enter fields into. And then because the form has to be submitted, we gave it a submission endpoint that when it is submitted, and submitted means when you click on save, we want to submit it through the post request, and it should call the save endpoint. So we defined a save endpoint over here. What the save endpoint does is it is going to read the form. So to read the form, we needed to import request from Flask. And then once it hits the endpoint, we say request.form is a dictionary, and then we read the field name. So the name that you gave in the form, that is the same name that you will use to access the value the user typed in there. Now we read all these values and we assign it to the appropriate fields on our Python model record or object. When you finish, you just go db.session.add, db.session.commit, and it gets saved into the database. Now, after saving, you want the user to see the new thing they entered. So you just send a redirect to the homepage, because that is where we are. The homepage is where we are doing all this magic. So you just redirect there so that when I come and I enter some values here, it can actually refresh itself. Basically, that is it. But watch the video again, and then maybe tomorrow I'll extend the time a bit because Friday is a holiday here, so that we can deal with all your issues. But definitely watch the videos. And if you don't know Python already, I've shared a link to a Python course, a very good one, 4 hours. Sit down, watch it, and practice. Practicing is much better than just watching. So yeah. Any other question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. With the template inheritance. Yeah, it seems that if you are inheriting from the base or the layout HTML, and then with the other ones, for instance, if you want to dynamically insert title or content blocks, there are specific should I say names, for instance, for the title block.
Yeah.
You have to start with the block title.
I think I get what you are saying. So let's create one so that it will be more concrete to you. So if you look at our page now, it's like the title, it doesn't even change. It's always contact us. You get it? Look at the title of the tab. It doesn't change. So what we can do is we go into our head where the title is created. This guy. I can chop it off and then insert a block here so that every page can specify its own title. You can even do it for where you include CSS and JavaScript. So I'll say block title end block. Then inside here, I'll actually insert a title. And this page, okay, this is the contact us, so I'm not going to insert anything in there. So let me copy, and then because it's a block, you can leave it empty or you can put something there so that if the page doesn't override it, it will be there. So as a matter of fact, I'll leave it, and then I'll say Corona site. Okay, this means when I refresh my page, all the pages will have Coro site. both the dashboard and the contact us. Let me show you how you can override this in each page. So I come to contact us. I insert the block because the block name should match what you define in the layout. Then over here, I change it to contact us. I go to the home. Let's open home. I go to the home, and then I also insert, and then I change this. I want it to be dashboard. I save this. I refresh. Now I have contact us on the contact us. I go to dashboard. I have dashboard. If you check the tab, you see that it changes. Did I answer your question?
Yes. You answered my question because initially I used my own predefined words instead of block title. I made a title block.
No, it should work.
And then actually it threw some errors into the web application. So
it should work. Let me demo that once more. So let's say instead of title, I'll say big head. Okay. Then let's see what happens. So this is Coro site. This is Coro site. You know why it is happening? Because I defined it as big head in the layout, and I'm calling it title in the others. So let me come here, home. Instead of title, I'll call it big head. So I mean, I'm just demonstrating that you can use any name at all. You should just match what you use in the layout. I refresh. Now we have dashboard. We have contact us. But because it's a bad name, I'll go back and change it to title. Change it title. I'll change it to title here. So feel free to use any name. Just make sure they match.
No, I mean that if you interchange the, for instance, if title comes before the block, or it's I don't know if it's a ginger rule that it's supposed to be block.
Yeah. Block should come with title. You can't say
exactly.
No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Block title. Yeah, I get it.
And one more question. It seems that with the Ginger templates that comes with Flask, we have to be creating HTML files. Like any redirect we need or any page we want or we need, we have to create HTML files and keep creating HTML files. What if we want probably a single page application, web application? Is there any other one that's...
If a single page application, then you definitely have just one HTML, and then all your view handlers, they will not be sending HTML, they will send JSON, because single page application is just one HTML, and then you use Ajax to make requests for other things, and then the page will be changing. So when we learn how to build APIs tomorrow, you see how to build a single page app. You just serve your index.html and everything will get JSON and be updating itself.
Okay.
So the view handlers there, you can return anything at all. You can return a PDF. If it's like students should be able to download their report from your site, you can send even a PDF to the browser and it will give it to you nicely.
Okay.
Any question? Mohammed, today you've not asked the question. Okay, Eric, I think there's no more questions, so I will leave you to take over. And thank you very much, guys. You've been an awesome class.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think it has been Python. It's always Python, and it's still Python. All right, guys. So yeah, thank you for coming. You see, the thing is, if we organize and you don't show up, it becomes useless. It only tells me that I have nothing proper to do with my time. Which technically is, because these things that we are doing, to me, they are hobby. I am a physics major, so I'm playing, I'm just having fun. All right, so any questions as in what is happening, like any other question aside the things that you studied today? General questions, I mean. Okay, so I'll take the silence for no. All right, so please, I keep advising the best way to master these things is to practice on your own. The demonstrations here are supposed to be a guide, but then for you to get in-depth understanding, you have to sit down and make sure no error is left unresolved. Okay. So once again, thank you. I'll be sending a form tomorrow. Okay, I'll send a Google form tomorrow. It's basically asking which skill you would like to learn. Is that okay? I'm reaching out to more resource persons, so I'll have a couple of courses. So you go in there, then you vote on a course that you want to learn. Okay, so in the end, those that get the highest rating, maybe in May, the whole month will be dedicated to that particular course. Okay, you have the whole month doing that particular thing. So tomorrow, when you see the post, please respond ASAP. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. See you same time tomorrow. And every Python related question should be posted on the page for us. Okay. Don't direct message me, please. I'll be enjoying my girlfriend, so please don't direct message me. Anyway, that's my laptop anyway. Okay. Good. Yeah. That's my laptop. So
I actually had a question coming for you.
Oh, my friend, go away you. So if you have any question, just post it on the platform so that in case it gets answered, anyone or everyone can learn from it too. Is that okay? So thank you for understanding. Pi, once again, salutes. It has been awesome. Definitely we are going to have another training with you. I'm yet to come up with maybe to be mobile development or something.
No, I'm not doing mobile development again. I'm not doing that. That thing is a killer of soul. I am not doing that. If it is AI, Python, AI, Python, robotics, fine. But mobile phone.
I think you can do machine learning, or
Yeah. Machine learning, I won't go for machine learning this time because a lot of you are still struggling with basic Python. So we are not going to machine learning. However, he'll be coming to Ghana around November, right? November or December. Are you sure of your dates?
It depends on when Anti-Koro goes, because as long as Koro is around, nobody can fly, even if you have a private.
Of course.
Even I parked my private jets, the engine is rusting.
All right. So for machine learning, until I see that the Python community of the TECHFoundation Africa has become strong, we are not doing machine learning.
Because if you don't know Python, you'll be on it.
So even before we do the machine learning, I'm going to get one maths guy, a friend of mine who is studying maths in the US. We will have 1 week mathematics relating to machine learning. Okay, so that because to do proper machine learning, you need mathematics. Okay, it's not about those bogus things people have been doing, trying to use libraries and they call themselves AI.
And by the way, those who already know Python, you can go to my YouTube channel. I constantly post videos on machine learning, deep learning, so you can learn from there even before we post this one. And please subscribe. Not every one of you are subscribed. Priscilla, I want to see your subscription. Isaacata, I want to see your subscription. Imanolata, I want to see. Mohammed,
I've done it already.
I've done my. Mohammed has done his.
See, if you don't subscribe now, tomorrow if you learn from it, you forget.
I've done mine already.
All
right. Already.
Okay, so
please,
guys,
if you haven't, give me a subscription.
Guys, actually, the subscriptions are very necessary, okay? Because it takes so much to make these videos. Right now, I have to wait for the video to get converted and stored on my PC.
See my board. I stand here and I teach as though I am. Nobody is sitting here. Then I will stand here and teach and pretend like there's a class I'm teaching, explain things. Then you people, you watch and you won't like. You see, 96% of my viewers are not subscribed, and most of them are in Asia. I did this video on number plate recognition. They are watching it and they are using it to do their assignment. They are not subscribing. I will delete it tomorrow so that they can do their assignment. Next time, they to subscribe.
Yeah, so
but
please.
See my stethoscope.
Yeah. I'm about stocking up my lab too, so yeah. So the next electronic session, I'm going to do a practical stuff with the Mabel. So yeah, there are a lot of stuff in the pipeline. You just have to give us the reason to do, okay? Because if we keep on pushing in our effort and we don't see any results, then it's becoming cost-90 job. All right, so see you tomorrow and all other chats on the platform. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
This brings us to the end of our tutorials. Now, as I always say, please don't fall prey to shortcuts. Learning programming requires you to spend time to obey the process, spend time to understand the basics. Don't be in a rush. If you go in rashly, you will end up not knowing anything. Is that okay? Remember, follow the process. Take your time to understand the language that you are using. You are as good as how best you can use your tools. Now, I want to express my gratitude to our partners and sponsors. Sqlite designs and build smart agricultural machinery suited for African conditions and use. They also provide fabrication training and computer-aided design services to manufacturing industries. Syriatech Technologies is an electronic component retail shop at China House, Adum, Kumasi. So you can contact them for all your electronic components, including Arduino kit and sensors of all kinds. Tesken Enterprise is the #1 distributor of electronic components, electrical components, and hardware. You can locate them at HM4 Market, Kumasi. Call them for all your electronics and hardware needs, from analog to digital devices. Electronics deal in smart electronic system development, software and web apps, IoT system design, project and research, and IT training. You can contact us for your next multi-million-dollar project. If you want to be a sponsor or partner of this program, please call us on the numbers displayed on your screen and we'll be happy to sit down with you. You can also donate in cash or in kind to support our training. We actually need a good camera and sound system for our video recordings, and I'm planning on starting an electronic session, and I will need these tools for better video recordings. Okay, your support will be very appreciated. You can Momo us any amount using the Momo account on the screen, okay, from 5 cedis to 500 billion Ghana cedis or dollars. Everything would be welcome. Now remember, so help us make Africa tech literate. Once again, thanks for watching this tutorial. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to this channel. We want to know how we can make this training better for you, so let us hear from you by posting a comment in the comment box below. All right, I am Professor and this is TECHFoundation.